Here's the first impressions and a first look at the retail version of the Sony ZV-E, that's the 10. This is the Sony ZV-E1. And gotta say, first thought, for a camera that's over $2,000, or in this case over €2,500, like, okay, Sony, you're skimping on the packaging, but if you have something like an FX3, it's kind of similar in that kind of cardboard box. Let's not complain about the box, Vic. Have no nails, so we need to get everything open with knives and just YouTube. In the box, we have a whole bunch of stuff that we never read, okay? You get that, right? Maybe there's important stuff in there. I don't know, I'm not interested. So, we have a strap. We have a USB cable that's not tied up because I've opened this already. This is what the battery came in. And this actually is something that you might forget about. This is the dead kitten. And yeah, anyway, this is kind of basically to protect the mic from wind noise, so it kind of filters out the wind. So if you're out in the wind. Now here's the baby itself. Sony ZV-E1. A baby Sony FX3. To compare it in size to the Sony ZV-E10, there's not a lot of difference between the two, as you can see. This obviously, the ZV-E1 is a little bit heavier. This, because it's got the kit lens on it, feels heavy, but even without a lens, this is kind of substantial. Feel, as a lot of people have said, doesn't exactly feel that premium. It's okay. The grip is similar grip, but there's a little bit more space, I feel, on here, so it's not gonna go flying out of your hands as quickly as possible. A couple of things. I guess you guys want to see what this thing looks like. I've been out at the crack of dawn this morning, so just roll some random ZV-E1 footage.
SC tone auto. Cinematic vlog mode. Gold looks like. Slow motion looks like. This is what the forest looks like.
I gotta say, right, first impressions, I'm really impressed. No overheating, right? The lens that I on was this Sony 20mm G lens. It's a 1.8. That was on here. That was it. The big standout feature for me that absolutely blew me away is dynamic stabilization. I get it. Some people will probably say, you know what, Vic, the stabilization should be that good anyway. The crop is, it's a lot, but on a wide lens, even on the 20, wasn't the worst. Something lower like a 16mm, then it's a whole different level. I know a lot of people are obsessed with the cinematic vlog mode. It does come with a whole bunch of limitations. If you want to see what those are, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we'll be making a dedicated video about that. Those of you who have been used to opening battery compartments and putting SD cards in will absolutely love this little feature. The fact that the SD card goes in on the side. You have no idea until you experience this how good of a piece of functionality that is in the Sony ZV-E1 or any camera. The other things that I like so far about this, and before we're going to get to the 4K 60, coffee montage, anybody? You got physical buttons up here. So we can go movie, S&Q, and we can go picture. So that is nice. There's a couple of buttons on here. The camera feels good in the hand. So far from what I have seen in this camera, video quality is amazing. Genuinely is superb. Now, I wouldn't expect anything less from the sensor that's in this. I haven't had any overheating issues whatsoever. The battery life, while I've done no tests in it, I did kind of think, the battery's ticking down pretty quick. That was a lot of 4K 60. That was just walk and talk stuff. And the other option here is the mic that's up here. So this omnidirectional mic, which automatically adjusts. I did think in some scenarios it wasn't amazingly accurate.
And this is what the audio sounds like. The mic, which does all different directions, is just set to auto. So if I turn the camera around, in theory, you should still be able to hear me. So now the camera is turned around. We're in active steady shot, by the way. So presumably you guys can hear me
But
quite
if you're out in your stuff,
clearly.
fine, but I do think you need to stick a mic onto this for the best part, just in my opinion, with any camera, not just the Sony ZV-E1. Now, slow motion. We have a couple of options in this. Personally, I don't like using the S&Q mode, so what I do is I will throw it into either 4K 60, or I will also look at the 1080p 120, which is super clean, especially from this full frame sensor. If you really want to get a bit of depth out of it and you have that ability to push in without losing detail, then 4K 60 is the way to go. Coffee montage. Sony are promising 4K 120 in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Start of June, I'm hearing different things. I would be very impressed if they pull it off without a limitation. I think there will be a limitation on the 4K 120 on the ZV-E1. What that is, I'd suspect it's probably 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Don't quote me on that. I could be completely wrong, because 4K 120 is a huge, it's a battery suck. But more importantly, it generates a whole ton of heat. And for a camera this size that doesn't have a fan like the FX3, I can't see it not melting, essentially. Be interesting to see, but let's be honest, you're not going to be shooting 30, 40, 50 minutes of 4K 120, right? Are you? Really? In a lot of cases, it's like a shot here, a shot there for 10, 20, 30 seconds maybe. Got the 30 right there. I would not be getting my knickers in a twist over 4K 120. The 1080 120p is exceptionally clean. And depending where your audience are, unless they're in a cinema screen, they're not going to notice the difference. But it does give you that kind of flexibility in post to push in just a tad like you can in the 4K 60. Now, there's a whole ton of other features here in this, like the AI, artificial intelligence. I haven't, literally, this camera is only a couple of hours old. Haven't really dove into that, but what I did notice is the autofocus seems to be phenomenally good. Now, all of the settings that you've seen on the footage so far, the camera has been turned on. And there is a different setup to this than what might have been in previous Sony cameras. And I think it's really good. That's the Creator app that Sony have released. It's all set up through here, including the really important settings like making sure this doesn't turn off if it gets too high in the temperature. So you can set all that up from the initial setup, which is really, really good. Now, speaking of setup for the Sony ZV-E1, if you want to see the absolute must change settings that you have to do as soon as you get this camera, and let me tell you, there are a few that to get the best video quality, you've got to change them. But if you want to see what those settings are going to be, make sure you subscribe, because I've got a ton of content coming on the Sony ZV-E1.